This is truly a battle of good versus evil. And that's where we are. And they can get on their mainstream media and they can get on their totally censored, corrupt social media, and they can shout from the rooftops that we're the Nazis and we're the fascists, but we're not the ones beating up little old ladies. Hey y'all, happy Monday. Did you see all the folks that showed up in Washington, D.C. for Trump this past weekend? I think there were over 1 million. Every time I saw pictures, I would start to cry. Like, it was unbelievable how many folks showed up to support him. I wish I could have been there. It feels good to know that we're not alone. It feels good to know that as much as the mainstream media lies, the news lies, social media lies, celebrities lie, Hollywood lies, as much as they try and censor us and shut us down, they ain't gonna do it because there's a lot of us. It feels really good to not be all alone. I was so excited to see Parler picking up and growing so fast that they were outgrowing the servers. I joined Parler, Randy and I both did back in May, whenever we first moved here. I think Randy's got, gosh, I don't know, over 1,000 followers on there. He's RSandland if you want to follow him. I joined it as Patriot Relocation Network, but I just changed it to Ozark Prepsteaders. So if you want to follow me on there, that's where you'll find me. Went to help out with some very, very minor construction work on Friday. Actually, it wasn't even construction. They were doing construction. I was painting. And I love to paint. I'm a really, really good painter. And I haven't been able to do as much because of all the issues I'm having with my neck. And apparently I did something wrong, twisted something, messed something up, and now these 2 fingers right here, super numb. I'm numb halfway up my arm. The surgeon said whenever I lose feeling in my hands and my leg, then it probably means I can't put off the surgery anymore. I'm really trying to put it off. I don't want to be down for 6 weeks, but I'm also pretty miserable, so I'm trying to balance that out. I guess stem cells have been very promising with some of the issues I'm having. And so we looked into that a little bit before we left Las Vegas. It was going to be like $9,000, and there was like a 70% chance that it would work on part of my problems, but not all of my problems. And so just haven't wanted to spend that kind of money. But it's getting to the point where it's like, man, I got to fix something. I'm just miserable all the time. So I had a rough weekend. Really was feeling sorry for myself yesterday because Randy was working and I was, down and out on the couch. And I just had the epiphany that, and we hear this all the time as Christians, but like it really, really struck me how impermanent of a home our place on this earth is. And how super, super permanent our home on the other side is. And it got me to thinking about all the people who, okay, here's how it started. I started thinking about all these people who showed up in support of President Trump, many of whom are great Christian people, and how after it started to get dark and people were trying to get back to their hotels, Antifa and BLM came out and started attacking these folks. And in some cases, the police stood there and watched it. They stood by. And so that gets me thinking, right? Because my husband was in law enforcement for 20 years. That was his job in the Air Force. And then he was a federal cop right before he retired. And I start thinking about how every single law enforcement officer I personally know is a patriot and a good person. And how do we get to the spot where in DC, people just stand by? Do you hear all that clicking? You hear that click, 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 click? That's my dog. That's Skunky. This house we're renting has the fake laminate floors, and his toenails are very loud. And they've been clipped. Like, it's just noisy. Anyway, sorry about that. Let's go back. So I started thinking about how do we get to the point where law enforcement like turns on us, right? And then I remember a couple of weeks ago reading an article and watching some videos on how George Soros and his crew have done their best to install super progressive, super socialist prosecutors throughout the country and judges. And one of those types of prosecutors that was installed by George Soros is the one in St. Louis. So if you remember the McCloskeys, out there trying to defend their property, and they're the ones that get in trouble, not the rioters, not the looters, not BLM, not the terrorists. No, just the average American citizens trying to defend their home. Well, they want to make an example out of them, right? Because they don't want us rising up. And you think, well, how can that happen in America? Well, it happens because they have for years, probably 20 or 30 years now, probably longer than that, let's be honest, probably since the 60s, worked towards instilling these ultra progressive socialists in positions of power throughout the country. And that got me to thinking about a movie that I first saw in, I guess it was 2011. I'm not exaggerating. I've probably watched it 100 times. It was made in 1981, I believe. It kind of strikes me as maybe like a college film kind of movie. Like somebody was trying to, graduate from college and they had to do a movie project. That's kind of what it makes me think of. It is called Years of the Beast, and it is on YouTube. I will link it up. And basically it occurs during the end times, the rapture specifically. One of the main characters, he is a college professor and obviously leans very liberal. The movie takes place outside of Seattle. And as he's in a meeting, an earthquake hits, and whenever the lights flash and when they come back on, the guy that he was standing there talking to was gone. Well, he was raptured. And eventually pretty quickly they realize that, a lot of people are raptured. So do you ever think about that? Like, let's just say that the folks who believe in the rapture are correct. Like, can you imagine being left behind? Can you imagine, like, they're all gone and you're standing there going, oh, crap. First of all, if you are a Christian, like, oh, crap. And second of all, even if you're not a Christian, but you know what the rapture is, you're like, oh, crap. Like, I'm stuck with all the people who were not going to go to heaven. Like, that's who I'm stuck with. And that reminds me of that prophetic dream that I had where, everything is going crazy and they're burning and looting and, because that's who's left. So all of this gets me to thinking about where we're at and how close it seems we're getting to the end time prophecy of the Bible. Like, so much of what is in Revelation seems to be coming true. So much of the prophecy in other parts of the Bible seem to be coming true. The peace in the Middle East, like, that's crazy, right? And it just seems to be like we're on that path. And so I started thinking, okay, there are lots of deceived people out there. Well, I guess if you don't know, that's one thing. And shame on all of us Christians for not doing our job to making sure everybody does know about Jesus. But for those who know and just choose to be evil anyway, that's a whole nother story, And I look at these videos and it's honestly, they're very, very hard for me to watch. I usually can only watch a few seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. I saw one where it looked like an old elderly lady was about to get beat up by some Antifa BLM young thugs, and I couldn't watch it. Like, I cannot watch that because I get so enraged. And it hurts my heart so much at the same time. Like, I can't do it to myself because it takes me too long to calm down. What kind of human being are you that you think it's okay to beat up an old lady? Like, something is broken within you, right? Like, your soul is broken. And when I became a Christian, I went all in, like all in. And I went to churches, I went to Pentecostal churches and Assemblies of God churches where they firmly believe in prophecy and the gifts of the Spirit. And things like, you know, the fact that demons really walk the earth. And a lot of it I kind of poo-pooed at the time. It was like, oh, I don't know about all that. But I gotta tell you, I see pictures of these folks all dressed in their black with their masks, and they're you know, throwing things and rioting and attacking people. And in a lot of cases, like, their eyes do just look dead. And I'm like, man, you know, maybe all the stuff I heard about demon possession isn't so far off. Because what kind of human being are you that you're in your 20s and you're going to beat up an old lady because she's carrying a Trump flag? Like, what kind of sick freak are you? And we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing so much of it. They're just evil. And I hear, you all hear, if you know, you're here, most likely you're, you know, thinking the same way, along the same lines as me. Although I have had some folks show up who want to freaking argue. Like, just don't bother to argue with me. Because I do truly believe, as do so many of you, that this is not about left or right. It is no longer about politics at all. This is truly a battle of good versus evil. And that's where we are. And they can get on their mainstream media, and they can get on their totally censored, corrupt social media, and they can shout from the rooftops that we're the Nazis and we're the fascists, but we're not the ones beating up little old ladies because they're carrying a Trump flag. We're not the ones telling people they're not allowed to speak and trying to destroy their lives because they're saying something we don't agree with. That's not us. That's not our side, folks. Things are crazy, and they're only going to get more crazy. Right before I did this, turn the video on to record here, I was listening to Rush. Rush isn't on today, but he had Sidney Powell on. Sidney Powell is pissed, y'all. Like, she is pissed. I mean, dang. Like, angry. Super, super angry. And she's my hero. As a woman, whenever I'm looking for other women to look up to, man, she is a shining light. Holy cow, is she an awesome, awesome woman and human being and attorney and fighter for justice. Like, it's amazing. So anyway, she said we should all go to a website called defendtherepublic.org. I tried to go on right before I started making this video, and I couldn't get through, probably because everybody had just heard her say that and we're all typing it in. But I will link that up too if I can actually get through. And the whole reason I wanted to jump on here today was, again, just to remind you that you are not alone. I know it can feel really lonely, especially if you are like Randy and I, and you are in a space where you might be around a lot of people who think the same way, but you don't have a lot of close friends, or you're not in the middle of a MAG or, you know, any kind of support group, and you just kind of feel like you're out there by yourself. It can feel a little lonely, but we are not all alone, man. There are 1 million of us showed up in Washington, D.C. this weekend. Picked up, went from all over the country and went to Washington, D.C. just to show our support. And mini rallies sprung up all across the United States. Now, of course, they're trying not to give it any coverage. I think I heard that CNN said there were a few thousand of us that showed up. Man, I saw those pictures and all that video. Oh, it's freaking amazing. Just don't let them get to you. Don't let them get you down. You're not alone. There are millions of us, maybe 70 million of us, who are all feeling the same way, who are praying as hard as we can that they're able to show this fraud, that this banana republic nonsense doesn't get through, and that we're able to get back to life. Because if Biden cheats his way in, none of us are getting back to life. Like, that's all I hear of the news is Biden talking about how we're going to need more shutdowns, and you know, how we have to get this virus under control, and how it's going to take, you know, weeks to months. And if they shut us down again, it ain't going to be good. I've heard lots of talk about a second Great Depression, and I think that's where we're going to be. So let's keep praying for President Trump. Let's keep doing our very, very best to make our voices heard. Keep calling, writing, emailing your senators and congressmen, letting them know that you will not stand for this craziness. Continue to make your posts on social media. Continue to make your voice heard. It is so, so important that we make our voices heard. And I guess that's about it for me. My poor doggy Skunk, some of you may have seen him with me on my old video, some of my past videos. He's going to be 13 or 14 this year. Lost track. I thought it was 14, but I think it may be 13. Anyway, for an Australian Shepherd, that's pretty old. He has very, very bad arthritis. About a month ago, he contracted ringworm. We've been fighting it for a month. It seems like it's going away. The medication is over. It comes back. We're going to be on our third round of medication and all that stuff. I have to take him to the vet at 2 o'clock today. And she told me last time, dogs as old as him with the arthritis like he has, like they may not make it. And I've been preparing myself for about 6 months, realizing that, you know, he's running out of time and out of life, but that's not the way I want that valiant fighter and awesome, faithful friend of mine to go out. I don't want him to go out over some stupid freaking ringworm of all things. So if y'all want to say a prayer for Skunk, I would greatly appreciate it. And that's it for me. I'll catch you on the next one. And I hope y'all just hang tough, hang tight, drop me a comment, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.